A strange monument to unrequited love. An immigrant's mysterious passions. "1,100 tons of coral rock, quarried, hauled, and carved by one man."
The greatest mystery to me of Coral Castle is how Ed was able to do what he did with the equipment he had.
Every person has his own theory. Some people think that Ed is from outer space.
This is Ed Leedskalnin, and this is his creation. A castle made of coral here in Homestead, Florida. The Sunshine State has long been a land of dreams. For vacationing sun lovers, for retirees, and for developers who've turned beachfront swampland into Art Deco boulevards like here in Miami Beach. But travel just a few miles south of Miami to Homestead, and what catches the eye is a much different style of building. For here in the 1920s and 30s, a remarkable and mysterious man built one of America's most bizarre monuments. It's been called Ed's Place, Rockgate Park, even America's Stonehenge.
It's really cool. I wonder what he
Today, just off US 1, you'll discover it as Coral Castle. Coral Castle is an incredible, almost eerie testament to one man's obsession, one man's determination and skill. And to this day, Ed Leedskalnin and his achievements remain cloaked in mystery. Clell Villela is the director of Coral Castle.
It's not only the mystery of a man's mind, but it's the mystery of how he did certain things in here.
Ed Leedskalnin was born to a family of farmers in 1887 in a small village outside Riga in Latvia. A frail and sickly boy, he was trained as a clerk and later as a stonemason. He led an uneventful life until 1912, when a broken heart drove him from the only land he'd ever known.
Before Ed came to the country, which is really the reason why he came here, he was engaged to a girl who was 16 years old, and that time Ed was 27, I believe. And the night before the wedding, she came in and said, "You're too old and too poor for me to marry." And that broke Ed's heart. He fixed it in his mind he was going to become somebody somehow, someday, and he traveled to the United States and settled down in Florida City, and all the rest is history right here.
In 1918, Ed began secretly carving the first of his coral pieces on an isolated acre of land in Florida City. By 1940, he had quarried, hauled, and carved over 1,000 tons of coral and had moved his Coral Castle to the nearby town of Homestead. Throughout his life, he claimed that his massive project was merely a labor of love for his ex-fiancée, a girl he referred to only as Sweet 16. Today, the results of this broken-hearted man's efforts continue to amaze, right down to the stone chairs and tables.
Here you have our contoured reading chairs, and we also have a table shaped like the state of Florida. Lake Okeechobee is a finger bowl, and there's 11 rocking chairs around it. You'll also find here a coral rock telescope, which is always pointed at the North Star, a coral barbecue, and a sundial, which is the only one of its kind in the entire world.
Those who knew Ed say his carvings represent everything that mattered most to him: love, family, Florida. Ed believed that every man's home was his castle, and every castle should have a throne. This massive carving weighs 5,000 pounds, and it rocks. He placed Sweet 16's throne next to his, and a child's throne next to hers. Clearly, children were on Ed's mind. In the children's playground, you'll find the Grotto of the Three Bears, a nursery story sculpted in stone. Ed's interest in the heavens is apparent throughout the site, with various structures representing the moon, stars, and planets. And then there's Ed's interpretation of a coral sundial.
As you can see, the marker right now is approaching the 10 o'clock hour. And on today, and then each subsequent day, at 10 o'clock, it's going to follow this line down. All the way down, and it's going to cross over on the first day of spring right here. As it travels down the loop, at the very bottom of the loop would be the longest day of the year, which is June 21st.
Ed's sundial accurately tells time and indicates the solstice and equinox days. And his 20-ton, 25-foot Polaris telescope, completed in 1940, still calculates the Earth's path around the sun. But to see into the heart of Ed Leedskalnin, you must sit at the Feast of Love table, a 5,000-pound heart-shaped coral rock, just one more element in this monument to lost love. To visitors, Ed would tell the story of Sweet 16 as though she were arriving on the next boat from Latvia, finally agreeing to marry him. He told this tale for so many years, some began to doubt its veracity. But believers insist that she existed. Could any fantasy so inspire a man that he would build such a monument to unrequited love? Despite his incredible accomplishments, Ed Leedskalnin considered his life a failure. His Sweet 16 never came across the ocean to live with him and bear his children. In 1951, Ed put up a sign that read, "Going to hospital," and checked himself into Jackson Memorial. He died 3 days later of kidney failure. But his death is not the end of our story, for we are now left to piece together his life, most notably his unimaginable feat. How did one man single-handedly quarry, haul, and carve 1,100 tons of rock?
Every person has his own theory. Some people think that Ed is from outer space. Some people think that he was a man not of this time. I happen to think that Ed was just a very creative individual, a very dedicated individual, and a hard-working individual who saw a dream and decided to do it.
But how? Ed Leedskalnin was only 5 feet tall. He weighed 120 pounds. How could he alone have built a 240-ton tower, an obelisk 40 feet high and 57,000 pounds, a 23-ton crescent moon? What clues will you find in the stones themselves?